Greetings, this is James Gilliland, and I'm your host on As You Wish Talk Radio on the BBS network. We've got quite a show. We've had some amazing things happen here. I want to get through the news first before we go into that, but we did our 11:11 meditation here. It's like a world and personal healing meditation, and the energy that came in was just phenomenal. And we linked up with quite a few other groups doing it, and we had people all over the world with the live stream doing the same meditation, and the feedback was just phenomenal. People really felt the energy come through them, and some pretty major shifts happened. Before that, I want to get into just a little bit of the news lately, let people know. People keep asking me, tell me what's going on, because there's so much nonsense out there. They're having trouble sifting through what's real and what's not real, and it is a little insane. But you know, we talked earlier about how the source, what do you call it, creator, you know, it's a higher conscious and energy, everybody has a different name for it, is pressing in very hard with all the multidimensional beings, ascended masters and other beings, and they're pressing in on the earth, tearing down the grid, you know, the draconian grid or archon grid. And the earth itself, she's been initiated by the Pleiadian consciousness and Era, which is the goddess of the Pleiades, and now she's moving as well. And so it's coming from above and below, and I call it the big squeeze that we're in right now. And so what happens is that everything aligned with that grid, that old draconian grid or archon grid, all the you know, the tyranny, the unbridled greed, the lust for power, all that energy, those people aligned with that, and their empires are basically imploding. They're collapsing right now. So we're seeing the byproduct of that. And I want to talk about a little bit about the byproduct, because you know, the news is right now, it's official, they are declaring that there's at least 31 indictments coming down on very high level people that really should be taken out. I got some word on the inside that there's about 291 indictments. There might even be more coming up, because it's pretty messed up. They just found out Brennan, you know, was one of the major spies that was leaking all this information, who actually converted, you know, to the Muslim religion, you know, go figure. That was a no-brainer, you know. So anyway, they're starting to tie up these leaks and find out who's who and who's on the payroll. I guess apparently 6 major Republicans were on the Clinton payroll, and that's coming out. There's probably more. So there's such a large host of people being either blackmailed or on the dole, and that's all surfacing right now. That's coming up. You know, they've snagged the records, and they know who's who and who's doing what. So that's going to be really interesting. I guess they just arrested 22 more in the pedophile thing. Now, somebody told me that the numbers are up to like 35,000 arrests have been done globally around the world with this pedophile network. And from what I understand, this whole political Hollywood pedophile Pizzagate, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be a massive sweep, a massive cleanup of this mess. And you know, if they haven't bagged them already, that it's in the works. You know, the things are signed and sealed. So you're going to see a lot more of that happening. There's so much going on right now on the planet, but it's all a byproduct. You know, it's just a byproduct of the energy that's coming in. And so, as we said before, the Earth is moving through a highly energized place in space. The higher dimensional beings are aware of this, and it's part of the Earth's evolution to ascend and go to the next level. And they're assisting in that process, and the Earth itself is shifting. She's moving to the next level. And this is all part of that process. And so we've talked a lot about this, and now you're seeing the outcome. You're seeing the physical manifestation of this. So basically, as we talked about this weekend, you know, we have the option of you know, creating heaven on earth and aligning ourselves with universal law and holding our leadership accountable to universal law, you know, or we're just going to go down. We're not going to be frequency specific to the earth and her evolutionary process. And so the people that aren't frequency specific are not going to be able to continue in this process, because they're going to implode, their empires are going to implode, and we're in the process. So there's a grand plan happening right now. There's so many people that incarnated for this. A lot of people aren't aware that they incarnated for this major Earth liberation thing that's going on. They're being activated in high levels all throughout all the systems, the business institutes, the religious institutes, all these people are being activated, and they call them the whistleblowers and things like that. And they're coming up and stepping into their power and standing tall in their divinity and just calling it out for what it is. And so you're going to see this, the apocalypse is the great uncovering. Everything is being uncovered and brought right up to the surface. So we're in that transition. So there will be some chaos during this process. Hopefully the white hats can mitigate a lot of this. They've been busting a lot of the plans over and over by the cabal and the other people to just wreak havoc on the planet. They've been stopping a lot of it, and some of it, you know, they're still working on, and we're in the middle of that process. But these next 2 months, November, December, are the pivotal months where all this stuff is going to be happening and coming together. So getting that all aside, I want to focus more on 11/11 and the energy of 11/11 and this global meditation that we did here. The ranch here, it's a vortex. It's a place where it's like an acupuncture point. And so when we do that kind of work here, it affects the whole planet. And so we took everybody through all their lower bodies up to their God self, and then focused all this energy back down on the planet, you know, coming from the highest level that we could ascend to. And you know, what's funny, whenever we do these exercises, you watch the news the next 3 days, you just see all this stuff hit the fan, you know. So it does create a little chaos, but it's a good thing. It brings things up to heal. And you know, the whole, as everybody knows, the whole planet is undergoing a huge healing crisis, you might say, you know, on many levels. And so, you know, you've got the Saudi Arabia thing. There's a big cleanup going on over there. You know, everybody, they're finally figuring it out. I mean, the insiders know about it. You know, basically, you know, all the supposedly bombers on the World Trade Center, you know, had Saudi Arabian passports. You know, they came from Saudi Arabia. So, you know, so another thing too is that supposedly bin Laden, you know, who was from Afghanistan, had nothing to do with this stuff anyway. They tried to pin it on him. But again, you know, this whole CNN fake news, all this stuff that's been going on has been guiding us for so long in the wrong direction. So when we go and bomb Iraq because of 9/11, Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. Even Bush said so. So what are we doing? Why are we going to, there's another master plan going on, and it's the plan of the cabal. And they're using our military as the brute squad to carry out their global agenda. Well, that's all coming to an end right now. That's coming to a close. So what you're going to see right now is all this major funding, where it's been coming from, who's been funding, you know, the jihadist movement, you know, ISIL and ISIS and all that stuff. It's sad. I don't know why they took the name ISIS. It's like kind of a shame, you know, because if you actually tune in with the entity ISIS, she's a beautiful goddess being, you know. And so these militants take on her name, which is pretty psycho. But there's a reason to twist all this stuff, you know, to try to twist all these things. And they're trying to reverse everything. So you'll see that even in the language, they're trying to, everything's the opposite. And it's a game they're playing. But I was watching the CNN thing, and CNN goes, Trump's China visit, total crash, you know, he insulted everybody, you know, and all this stuff, right? And then you watch what really happened, and there's this major red carpet event, bands, everything, you know, they're totally hanging out, you know, it's same thing in Japan, big fanfare, you know, like they didn't even come out to the plane when Obama landed in China. They definitely didn't roll out the carpet, and they didn't even come out to the plane. They told them basically to pack it up. We don't want to deal with you. You know, we know who you are. So anyway, you know, again, a little disclaimer, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I think both parties, you know, the right wing, the left wing, are the same bird, and that bird's been operated from the head, which is the cabal and the other forces. But luckily that head is being cut off, and we're getting back to a republic, which is what the process, that's what we're undergoing. there's just so much going on. I can't even get into it. Some things I can't even talk about because I don't want to sabotage them. But we are going to have a whole different monetary system and it's going to be a fairer system. There's going to be a global reset, and that's just the beginning. That's part of the solution. Eventually, we won't be having money. We won't even be using money because no advanced culture actually uses money. So we'll eventually go into that direction. But that's going to take a while. There's a series of steps. So a lot of people go, "Why are you talking about this monetary thing? Why are you talking about that so unspiritual? We shouldn't be using money." And I said, well, right now, if I go to the grocery store and say, "Hi, I'm a really nice guy. Will you give me that carton of eggs and that bread and that other stuff?" It's not going to work out too well. So money is the accepted exchange right now that we're using it. It's going to be a series of steps, and it'll take a while to get to there. But first we've got to level the playing field, and that's what's happening. So all these agreements are being made. A lot of gold is being moved to back the currencies. Most of that's in place. And so there's going to be a huge shift where all this money is going to come towards humanitarian funds. And people have a hard time understanding how much just the interest on the gold is phenomenal. It's beyond it's in the quadrillions of dollars. And we're not talking about the gold, the interest on this gold that's been backing other currencies, and most of that money is going to be, geared towards humanitarian purposes and taking care of the sick and taking care of the poverty, the homeless, and things of that nature. And it'll go towards bringing out the fuelless energy and the other technologies. But again, there's major resistance to this happening. The good news is most of the resistance is being wrapped up right now, and so things are going to start moving really quickly. But that's the news right now from my understanding, and things change. Again, I thought it was hilarious when you look at CNN and then you look at the real coverage of what's going on, and all the other trips. It's totally opposite of what they're saying, and so I think they just need to pull the plug on them, basically. I think eventually they're just going to go away. Their ratings are so far in the toilet right now, and they're being propped up by the cabal. And they'll eventually just going to go by, it's just economics, basically. You can only prop something up so long, and then it's going to crash. But anyway, again, follow the money and you'll find out, what they're all about. Just find out who's financing them, who's behind them, and you'll see what's going on. So setting all this aside, well, some interesting energy just came in. I don't know if you guys felt that. That was interesting, but because I'm shifting gears right now, the energy just shifted in the room. But I really want to go into the 11/11 gathering here. What it means to the people that were here, some of their experiences while they were here, and kind of move in that direction and bring different people up to talk about their experiences here during the weekend. So we can bring up our first victim, whoever wants to come up and go first. Don't everybody jump at once. That's all right.
Hey.
All right, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd like for you to talk just a little about some of your experiences here, and also you went through the transpersonal release session too. That was quite interesting.
Wide open. I'm still landing from that. I'm like,
yeah. If you could come up a little closer to the mic, that would be great. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where do I start? Oh God. Yeah, when I first showed up, the crows totally freaked out in the trees, and that I used to feed them. Oh, sorry, I'm nervous. I'm like, feel that.
It's just a conversation, I was out there too. I saw that the ravens.
Oh, I pulled in.
Yeah, they were just like everywhere, and I go, hey, somebody's here. They're letting me know that somebody's come on the property here. It's probably you, But
I used to feed them when I was having a hard time during a certain part of my life, and I was like, oh, okay, that's you guys. Hey,
yeah,
thanks for the welcome.
When I went to Australia, I was working with the king of the Raven tribe there and several other tribes, and when we went there and we got initiated with them, we were doing this energy work and ships are flying over and everything. And then all of a sudden the ravens came, and it's on the East Eddy down under one. And they just kept coming. They just kept coming and coming and coming. The whole sky was just blacked out almost with ravens, you know. It's like something out of an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but it was positive, you know, it wasn't negative at all.
Yeah, they're really powerful. And that Odin too, like kind of energy.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I came on Cecilia, sweetheart, gave us the tour, and right when we passed the Buddha pond,
yeah,
going towards the Lemurian Hill, I got hit with just a euphoria right in my sacrum. Just went straight up, and it's like, oh my God, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's happening. Oh, oh, here we go. And I thought I was gonna pass out or jump out of my body. I felt like I was gonna lose my bowels at any second. I was like, oh, here we go. Oh my God, I just got here. And I was like, Cecilia's like, you all right? You look like a Orion pilot. I was like, oh, right, here we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the session with you, oh my God. Yeah, that reminds me of just getting rid of all those traumas, like you said, ISIS. That's why they named it ISIS. One of my issues with my family, one of my family members, and
you guys speak up a little.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's why they name it ISIS. They're at war with that sacred feminine principle.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to desecrate it. That's why they're pulling all that oil out of the earth and burning it, and you know, all the Disney movies having mothers and
yeah,
all that. And so they create secondary psychopaths that if they don't heal that. And then they hit me in the bed too when I went to bed, and the same thing shot up my feet and up my back and in my head, and someone came in the room and was like, okay, that feels good. And then I could actually sleep.
Yeah, a lot of energy here. A lot of people are sensitive come here, and we've seen everything from people just almost going comatose. They go, I just got to go lay down, and they have to recalibrate to the energy here. And other people get all amped. They're going, they're walking around just going like, yeah.
Still am all day, like every day. Like, calm down. Downshift.
Yeah. Take your shoes off and walk around. But it's kind of rough in the snow right now. But
yeah, I'll do it anyway.
It's good to ground, get grounded. We have to recalibrate because the Earth, the Schumann resonance is off the scale. So the Earth is vibrating at a faster rate, and we really need to get grounded, take our shoes off and recalibrate with the Earth, because she keeps changing. I mean, it went from 7 to 50 to 500 to up to 1,000, and then it went back down again. I don't know where it's at right now, but the Earth is just vibrating at a much faster rate, and our bodies are of the Earth, and so we have to recalibrate, and it's so important right now to stay grounded, with all this energy coming in.
Yeah, that helped a lot when we were doing that 111 session. See the tunnel.
Yeah.
Shooting all that energy back into the Earth, that really helped a lot.
Did you feel the different bodies as you're moving up? When we went through this.
It after like 6, I'm like, and then I kind of remembered coming back down, but I forget after that, and then.
Yeah, after the 6th dimension, nothing matters. Yeah. So.
What do? I'm like, oh, this isn't me anymore. Let go. Okay.
Yeah.
It comes down.
And when we got up to the higher dimensions and sent the energy back down into the Earth, boy, I really felt that come through. That was intense.
I saw it. It was like a giant tunnel, but it wasn't. It was like so white, but it had like a blue tint. It almost had a curve on it and just kept going down. I could feel it shooting through my feet. It's kind of interesting because I'm usually out here.
Yeah.
And I don't ground enough, but I could feel it going all the way up through me and down.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you had a good trip so far. I mean, it's going to be more of a trip, I think, tonight and tomorrow.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Let's see if we can bring up the next victim.
All right.
Hey, welcome to the show.
I've actually been on before. I was
Yeah.
asked a question.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know if I should recap that, but I came here when I was 13. That was like kind of changed my whole view on the world.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Ever since then, I've just like when I had that kind of experience where I took a nap and people told me I was missing. Like ever since then, like every day, like I go to school and I go to work and like I like think about that kind of stuff. And every time I come here, it's almost like a therapy session. Like I walk around in like I've done a lot of like camping out in the woods, and it feels really similar to that, kind of just like less lonely because I know that I have a community with me, but like I have this weird like synchronicity with everything, you know.
Yeah, you really get in touch with the land here.
Yeah, it's inexplicable. Yeah, but during that meditation circle, I remember when you started it, I felt like I just had like this complete wash over me, and I remember like my eyes started like blurring out, and like I was like hyper focused on the lights in the center where you did the tipping.
Yeah.
And everything just went dark around that, and then I was like, whoa, this is really weird. And I just started closing my eyes, and like I had kind of a similar experience to when I was young, and when I like first had that happen to me, because I don't even think I can like process it. It just felt like I don't even know.
Yeah.
Pure bliss.
Oh yeah. It sounds like you're leaving, you know, like when things a lot of times.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're kind of going out of your body and into that state of bliss. Yeah,
and that's the thing, is that like I think about how like how that this environment can make me feel like that, and I try to replicate it in like in meditation and whatnot. Sometimes I'll like get there and kind of zone out, but it's not the same as when you're really here. It's like I tell everyone who's like skeptical about the kind of stuff that I talk about. You know, I like sometimes I sound a little bit crazy. I try to keep it on the rails, but like anytime someone goes and it just sounds a little skeptical, I'm just like, just go down there, man. Like make it here.
Yeah, you can't explain this stuff. It's just like it's an experiential thing.
Yeah.
And I have feelings about putting a lot of this stuff up on YouTube because the people aren't here, and they don't really know what's going on. And if they're looking at it with kind of sideways, you know, very skeptical, but then you know, they don't get it. But a lot of people actually do. When we did the broadcast here, the messages coming back over Zoom was just one person after another going, my crown lit up. I just went into ecstatic bliss, and it was just all positive, one thing after another. People said we can really feel it. We really connected in, and so I'm getting more and more adjusted to that. But some of these things you just can't explain. They're experiential. You can't go, well, I saw a light cross the field, you know, or go 2 feet off the ground, or I saw something at treetop level power up and light up, and they go, well, it's just a light, you know. And I go, well, no, it wasn't a light, because there was an exchange that happened.
Those power ups, man, that was the first thing. On the first night that I was here, I was with some of my friends, and we were camping, and we were all looking up, and we saw the star, and we were like, that star's really bright, you know, like we don't know the constellations or anything, but I was like, we were like, that is like really bright star. It was kind of freaky, and then like we're all staring at it, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then suddenly it was like huge in the sky, and then just like imploded on itself, and it was gone. After that, like I didn't even I couldn't even process anything, and so I just like I remember I walked back to because we were off in the kind of like by the field over this way, and I walked back to the ranch, and then I just like I didn't even like talk to anyone or anything, but I came into that lounge room where you check in at. It was a couple of years ago. It looked a little bit different, but I don't know why, but I just took a nap. And like I woke up and people were looking for me. It was the strangest thing, and like ever since then, that was like an hour of my life, and that's changed forever. And so like I can't tell people enough that like, you know, this stuff's real, but you know people don't believe you until they have that sense of community, which I think is really important here. Is that there's other people around you, and you can talk to them, and like this is what I like. This is my kind of theory on like finding the truth in things. Whenever I'm like, because I've been like into conspiracy theories and kind of aliens and stuff, it's like you got to find what overlaps with everything. And when they have all this overlapping truth with everybody has the same sensations. It's like I can't even deny it.
I mean, we've had 200 people out in the field. You know, massive. We've seen ships come over treetop level, even below the treetop, film them. The ships power up, you know, with all the multiple witnesses. But still, that's not enough for some people. It doesn't matter. I said, well, we got 200 witnesses. We have 4 or 5 cameras filmed it.
Yeah.
You know, all these things happen. You know, this one ship morphed from 1 to 3 with multiple witnesses on it, and it's not a satellite. It's not a meteor, obviously. It's very clear, you know, and we go to Heavens Above and J-Tracker to check. We know when the space station is coming over. I have a friend, Alex, I kind of mess with him every once in a while, and I called him up and I said, hey, go out at 7:30 tonight and look up, you know, and he goes, why? I go, just do it. He walks out and he looks up and he goes, calls me back, goes, oh my God, there's a massive ship right over my house. And I said, actually, it's a space station, you know. You know, so, you know, we have fun. We do little pranks here now and then, but I always make it clear, you know, I never fake anything here. But sometimes I have fun with that because, I mean, you can look up and know when the space station, and it's huge when it comes over.
Yeah.
And
for me, it was so strange because like when I came here, like I thought the whole thing was a money grab. I was completely skeptical of the things that, like, I was being rebellious because my parents are really they were really big fans, and so the entire time on the when I was driving over here, I was thinking like whatever, like nothing's gonna happen, and then like the first night that happens, and like I just completely like 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so strange to me that some people see that and then won't think something else, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we had one scientist out here, and we had another NASA guy who was really funny. He goes, you know what? He goes, those are all satellites. He goes, I'll believe it when one stops and it goes back the other way. And right after he said it, one came in and stopped, and it went back the other way. And he just like, he goes, and it freaked him out. He goes, did they hear me? He goes, how did they do that? He goes, how did they do that? And I go, they're totally telepathic. I said, if you focus your energy on them, they feel it. You know, you made a statement and they heard it, and so they did it, you know, so it's
Yeah, I mean, I'll let my friend Rich talk about it a little bit, but it was a strange thing earlier today. We actually, like, we had a full intent on, we came here because we wanted to get he had some visions of Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
And we knocked on a tree, and then we heard a whoop, whoop.
Oh, yeah.
Way off in the distance. Like, I felt like it was just because we had so much intent that, like, you know, like we weren't trying to, like, shoot them or stab. We were trying to. It was like right after right after I was asking questions about it in that session. That's exactly what we did. And it worked.
Yeah, it does. You knock on the answer, and that's how they answer. They do this whoop whoop, like you hear this really weird, and they also they try to imitate owls. Have you heard them do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the owls, you know, instead of going like hoot hoot, they'd go hoot hoot like this because they inhale. I mean, when we exhale when we talk, they actually inhale, and so you can totally hear when it's Bigfoot because it's an inhale when they're making their noises and things like that. You know, you can catch it. It's kind of hilarious, but there are a lot of them out here. And again, you're saying if you have pure intent, open mind, loving heart, and you go out there, they feel that. You know, they feel that energy, and they'll start responding to you. And the more you work with it, the closer they come.
That might be the hardest part, though. It's just like not psyching yourself out.
Yeah. You get a 9-foot hairy being, you know. You know, walk around the corner and run to that. You just go, you know, you really test your fear quotient right there, you know, really quick. But, you know, I've never heard. The only time I've heard of Bigfoot harming anybody is when they either shot at them, or they had one encampment up here that they were totally just taking all the trees out in their area. And they came down and they grabbed 50-gallon drums and threw them and destroyed some of the equipment. And it was on the reservation too, and they stopped the logging process.
Wow.
But, you know, usually if you go out there and if you're in the right mindset and you're not there to do harm or anything else, there's no problem. You know, you never have a problem with them. But, you know, if you go out there with a gun and you're hunting them, yeah, you could have an experience, you know, it won't be a good one.
Yeah, you might get rocked through at you.
Yeah. Well, one guy actually shot at one over towards the Dalles up in the hills up there, and he shot at one, and it started screaming and hollering at him and it goes right through you. It's almost like a sonar. It's really weird, and they were like screaming, and one came running down, and he ran. His dogs ran too with him, jumped in his car, took off. And when he came back to his camp, he found his rifle, and it was twisted into a pretzel. You know, so you can imagine, you know, they're taking the steel barrel and just turning it into a pretzel, you know. So it's not a good idea to go out there with guns or anything and think you're going to you're going to bag one, you know, it's like.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fist fight a Bigfoot.
No, yeah, it's a no contest. Plus they can phase in and out, which is hard for some people to understand, but we've actually seen them phase.
That's what you were saying with Clyde, right? Is that
Yeah.
he ran through the orchard and he did.
Yeah. All the trees, the branches were interlocked, and he went right down the path, right through those trees. And you would have heard all this ruckus and everything, and branches moving. The branches didn't move. You know, so I said, you know, these guys can phase out, or they're not totally physical. They can be if they want to be, but they have ability to phase out, it seems like.
So were they here before us? Like, have they been here for a while?
I think they've been here a long time, and I think a lot of them evolved naturally in nature. They didn't go into technology. They worked with their environment versus against it, and then there were some benevolent ones, and there were some kind of nasty ones in the past that used to grab children and things like that, and actually the benevolent ones worked with the Native Americans and got rid of them.
Yeah,
they got rid of that group.
Those in Native American culture.
Yeah, they got rid of the negative ones, and then there's an android. I think the UFOs have an android that they deploy, you know, when they want protection, you know, if they're doing some work.
That's so strange. It reminds me of that theory that the gray aliens are androids.
Well, they are. A lot of them are just little Autobots. They're like a biological robot. Mm-hmm. And we found this hair up there that was 3 feet long, you know, over 3 feet long.
A hair?
Yeah, from the Bigfoot. And we had it analyzed by a fiber specialist and a forensic guy. And they go, what is this, alien? You know, they couldn't figure out what it was because it was perfectly hollow, and it had trace elements, and it was silicon base. Mm-hmm. And they said that we cannot manufacture this. We cannot create this here. We don't know where it came from. And so it was kind of like it's like a synthetic biology or something that they.
Wow.
And it really makes sense because when you if you're silicon based, there's no problem in shifting and going other dimensions and everything else. You don't have any problem whatsoever. And so some of the higher beings are actually more silicon based than iron based, like we are.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming on the show. Keep up the good work. Take your camera out there and get a picture of Bigfoot for us.
Hey, James.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. So I need your help with Bigfoot. I need to figure out. I got this Bigfoot thing going on. So my buddy Wilder and I were talking about it. So.
You're kind of a big guy. Maybe it's your ancestors.
That's exactly what I think is going on. So I don't know. But I came into this completely skeptical. Didn't believe in Bigfoot at all. And now actually, they used to call me Bigfoot when I was a kid because I wear a size 15 shoe.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of weird stuff is going on with the Bigfoot stuff. So, little backstory real quick, just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. I had a Kundalini awakening 13, 14 years ago. And in the 11:11 meditation today, one of the things you brought up was how if those things start prematurely, you can get energy sickness and that kind of thing. So I had a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't a fun experience. But it led to me kind of figuring out that I'm a starseed and things like that. And then I found out about your ranch, which was kind of a really cool thing to figure out. Because I had no way of really going on the web trying to look this stuff up. It was just very confusing, that kind of thing. So today's talk on the 11:11 stuff was nice because you kind of laid out some of that information that I just couldn't, put together. Mm-hmm. But last time I was here, the really cool thing was that when I was camping, I was just, again, I had no real expectations at all. And then I heard this whooping sound, this whoop, whoop,
yeah.
And it freaked me out because it was just so guttural and so unlike anything I'd ever heard before. And the coyotes were freaking out.
Oh yeah, they go crazy.
They did not like this, whatever this was. And I could tell it was a large mammal. Yeah, like a big mammal. So I kind of was like, well, what is that? And I went home and I started Googling all the sounds that animals in the Northwest make.
Yeah.
And couldn't find any match. The owls were close.
Yeah.
There was a couple owls that were close. But then I found these old recordings that people had made of Bigfoot, and I was like, that was the exact same sound. What? That's crazy. So I kind of went on with my life, and then Wilder mentioned there was another Skywatch event coming up, and that night I had a dream of coming back to East City and seeing this giant Bigfoot footprint in my dream. I was like, well, maybe that's a sign, I don't know. But for the next couple of nights, 1111 kept showing up on my
Yeah,
clock. So I'm like,
yeah.
oh geez, okay, so maybe I should just fork out the cash and go to this Skywatch
Yeah.
thing again. So we get here, and then earlier today we were just we said that that little prayer, that little clearing prayer.
Yeah.
And I grabbed the log and I started.
Knocking, yeah.
And I only did it like, what, 6 times? The first
Yeah.
3 times I heard like a little whoomph, but I was like, well, maybe that's something, I don't know. Then hit another 3 times, and then those calls came out.
Oh,
And
nice.
I was like, okay. So what is Bigfoot trying to like tell me? Or it seems like there's some, because previously I was working on a film and I was out in the woods and I heard the same sound too.
Yeah.
But I blew it off because a friend of mine told me it was an owl. So I don't know. I keep.
Well, you have some
encountering
connection
Bigfoot.
there. You
Yeah.
definitely have some connection there because, one, the drive to find out and everything else is coming from something within,
Yeah.
some interconnection.
Right.
And, who knows, you could have been a Bigfoot in a past life or they're very advanced beings. They're not just dumb hairy apes like some people would try to say.
The really,
But,
the really serendipitous thing that's even wilder than all of this
Yeah.
is I made this film called Starleaf a couple years ago about aliens and Marines. And in the sequel, completely out of the blue, I wrote in Bigfoot. He has a cameo. And my character in the film was a descendant of Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just kind of as a fluke. I
Yeah.
just threw that in there as a gag, as a gimmick. And now I'm here hearing Bigfoot in the woods with pretty ease.
Yeah.
Now, again, I had no expectations of Bigfoot. I just thought it was some anomaly. But I'm starting to really think that there's something going on. And so the transdimensional part, that was something that I've heard, and I kind of blew it off. But what is that really about?
Well, what we've seen, I've seen several of them, and the first time I saw one, it was a female, and she was making this noise. It was like, it kind of went like this, and it would go, like moaning, like really moaning.
Right.
And I go, God, what is that? I said, something's really hurt. I need to go figure out what that is.
Yeah.
And it sounded something from, didn't sound human, but it sounded like some guy that was really messed up,
Yeah, right.
And the moan was so heavy.
Primal, yeah.
Yeah, and so I walked down this path, and it was full moon, clear sky. I could see everything, and all of a sudden I stop, and here's this female Bigfoot sitting on a log.
Wow.
And she was kind of looking down, and she looked up at me, and I just opened my hands up and said, can I help? Are you okay? Like this. And we just sat there looking at each other for a while, and then she stood up, and then she walked right by me, right by me, and turned around and looked at me, and she nodded, and her whole face was lit up by the moon, and she nodded and kind of smiled at me, and I kind of got telepathically, thanks, but no thanks. We don't deal with humans.
We have enough trouble with you guys.
Yeah. They go, we don't hang out with humans. It's always gone bad. That's kind of,
Yeah.
we've always been exploited. And that was what the information I kind of got in that. But she didn't even get to the forest, and she phased out.
Wow.
She just disappeared.
Right.
And then your mind goes, did that happen? Did
Yeah.
that really happen?
Right.
And so, and I didn't even think about going and getting tracks or anything else.
Right.
I just left it at that. I said that was really bizarre, but I could see she was a female and she had breasts and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went by. And so I come home, and I'm living with this guy, Tom Dongo, who was an incredible remote viewer at the time.
Right.
And I go, Tom, you never believe what happened to us like this on the trip, And he goes, Bigfoot. And I go,
Oh, you did?
yeah. And I go, and remote viewer unsurpassed, really
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
And so and then he goes, it was a female. And I go, how'd this guy, how'd this guy know that? He just nailed it.
Yeah.
He goes, it's a female. And I said, okay. And I go, well, was she wounded or hurt or something? He said, no, she got separated from her daughter.
Oh.
And that's why she was so upset. And she was so distraught. That's
Yeah.
why you walked up on her, because she was really distraught.
overwhelmed,
Yeah, and overwhelmed. And I said, God, this is all adding up. It's all making sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, can you remote view the daughter? And he said, she's with the others. And I said, the others? And he goes, yeah, there's a whole tribe, up there of them. And so I said, no, that's good. So I felt better about that. But to me, I've had all these things happen like that, validations, but to me, there's no, first of all, to pull Bigfoot out of nowhere we didn't have cell phones, nothing with us at the time.
Yeah.
This was back in the 80s and early 80s. And so nobody could have called home. There's no way he could have known about that, at all. And
right.
yeah, and to pull Bigfoot out of the air is just insane.
Yeah, I mean, I totally have, like I said, when I came into this, I had no theories on Bigfoot, I had no interest. It's just something that's kind of hit me. So what would be like the next steps if I wanted to pursue this relationship that I guess I'm having with Bigfoot?
Yeah.
What would be like, because like you just showed me a photo of a Bigfoot print that apparently you guys just found, and that's almost the same picture I had in my mind that made me decide to come here this week.
Yeah.
So it's just and part of my script when I was writing it was the idea that Bigfoot was like an offshoot of some kind of the human family, but because they communed more with nature than we did, they maybe earned this ability to do what they're doing. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, no, you're right on. It's exactly what happened. They evolved in nature, and they can do, a lot of the yogis and the lamas can teleport. They can phase in and out and do all that stuff. That's part of, and the more you're in nature, and if you evolve in nature without all the other chaos, you're going to develop those same abilities. And so they can merge with trees, and it's crazy.
Well, there's so much nature out here too, right? It's about power in nature itself.
Yeah, I was telling, they had that saying, if you want to go chase down Bigfoot, you'll never find it, but if it wants to find you, it will. So obviously you have a connection. You have a connection going that's trying to come together, and I think if you focus on that connection and just go into the heart and just send love and bliss to it, just sending that energy out with the intention of having a contact, that it's going to happen. Do
I want to bring a camera to this? Or do I want to go first?
If you want, but the first time I wouldn't. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about actually seeing one though. Like I don't want the fear to overwhelm me because I've heard it so far.
Yeah.
And maybe I've had like a little bit of a mental like.
You don't have to worry. They won't harm you in any way whatsoever. The only encounter I had was I walked right into this territory of this big male.
Yeah.
And he didn't. All he did was stomp and break a couple branches and made it very clear that I was in his space.
Yeah.
And so I apologized, and I went back and I got some apples and bananas. and I went back out and I put my antenna out. Hey, I have a peace offering, and I put it on this rock out in the lake so I could see it if he came to get it, right? And so we're paddling this canoe back away from and I was with this friend of mine, and she looks back and she goes, "The fruit's gone." Nice. And I go, "What?" I go, she goes, "Yeah, there was nobody. They would have had to come splash around a little bit, they'd have to come out to get it."
Wow.
And I go, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's gone." And so I did an apology and just, let that happen. But
you mentioned peanut butter sandwich.
They love peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
That was Elvis's
and things.
favorite sandwich.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe Elvis was a Bigfoot. I think he's on Mars right now or something.
He?
I don't know.
I can't track. No,
Current the Inquirer.
He's left the building. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly.
So
blue suede shoes on.
So I guess I'll just try to do some telepathic communication. Well, go out in nature and just try to because it's something that's really hit me out of left field. And I'm very fascinated by it now. I'm taking it very seriously now. It's a very cool thing. So
yeah, I'll tell you some places to go. I don't tell people this stuff unless your heart's in the right place. I don't share it because everybody asks me, "Where'd this happen? Where'd this happen?" And I go, "I'm not saying you'll go terrorize them." Totally. They want to go out with all their gear and everything and hunt. Hunting Bigfoot's a joke. You're never going to hunt Bigfoot. It's like, that's just for the cameras, for the film industry. But if you go out there with the right consciousness, you can start interacting with them, and they'll let you know if you can film them or not.
Okay. So you kind of get the go-ahead first. Don't just barge in. I mean, it's something that's
kind of meditate and ask, and if you get a really good feeling, hey, it's all right if I take a photo, and they'll let you know.
Did you hear about the Survivor Man guy? The guy at that show, Survivor Man. He apparently was doing his show for Discovery, and he had 2 Bigfoot encounters.
Oh, really?
And he quit doing his show, and he did another show just about Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
So he's one of the most mainstream guys out there. He was Bear Grylls had a TV show, and then this guy had a show, I think, on the Discovery Channel. What's that? Les Stroud? Yeah. So he kind of got me thinking about, man, this is something that people are experiencing. We don't have a typical answer for it, but it's worth exploring.
I think we're really close to one day the inner earth. We're going to reconnect with them, and Bigfoot's part of that nature kingdom. He's like the height of the nature kingdom and kind of a protector.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have the UFOs and the spiritually and technologically advanced off-worlders are coming in. So
Yeah, I
we're
really
going to
like
have this big reunion here really
It's coming
soon.
up.
Yeah, it's coming.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, it was awesome.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us today. It is November 14th, 2017. We're the Metaphysical Moms. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Carrie.
And we're so glad you've joined us here. So, we've got another amazing show today. This is Carrie's baby. This is something she has been so excited.
I have.
And she's been teaching me all about everything we're going to talk about today.
Well, it just sort of. So I've had these feelings, and I've had this intuition that there's something going on, and there's a behind the curtain, and I couldn't really formulate what it was. I just knew that something wasn't right, and whether it's our schools, our government especially, the way we heal, the way, just really kind of everything, all the different systems we have in place just don't feel right, and that's been this way for a long time. And so then I found today's guest, who is actually, I'm pointing at our computer that you can't see, and his work just resonates with me. It feels true, it feels right, and it's comprehensive. And so put your seatbelts on. We're about to blast off.
Buckle up, guys. We're in for a wild joyride today because we are welcoming Mr. James Gilliland. Hi, James.
Woohoo!
Hi, how you doing?
We are doing wonderful. Thank you so much. You know, you're getting up early. You're out in Washington State, and you're beautiful in all your colors. You've got some gorgeous paintings behind you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And is it getting cold up there yet?
Yeah, it is actually. We had a couple snowstorms already, but it's already melted off again. But I think the next one, it's definitely going to stick.
Change is winter's coming.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
today we're getting down to about 86. I mean, it's we're not quite there yet. So, but we're trying to usher it in.
Well, I'm going to read a little bio about you, James, for folks that don't know. You are a best-selling author, an internationally known lecturer. You're a minister. You're a counselor. You've had multiple near-death experiences. You have contact with extraterrestrials. You are a facilitator of a lot of Eastern disciplines. And you're, from everything that I've witnessed and learned from you, you're here to really help us, to teach us and guide us to wake up and heal humanity and the earth. And you teach higher dimensional realities from experience. So you really want people to have their own experience of their own divinity, of their own ascension. And you're here to help give that to us or teach us and guide us in that. So thank you for accepting your gifts and doing what you do.
Oh, you're
Right.
welcome. Yeah, it's. I don't have a choice, basically. You know, when you have your soul, when you connect with your soul, and your soul has its own unique purpose. It's really, you don't have a choice. You have to go in that direction. But I've tried to walk away from it several times, and just
They
go.
keep pulling you
go out.
back.
Yeah. I just want to go out and garden and live in the woods, basically. But I'm kind of a reluctant teacher, you might say.
Well, thank you. And so you're also the founder of the Gilliland Estate, but most people know it as the ESETI Ranch, and ESETI stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, if I can say that intelligently. And you have documented and shared all of this multidimensional contact phenomenon on your YouTube channel, and we'll put the links to everything that we're going to talk about on our YouTube channel on our joyrideshow.com so people can find you. And you've written several books to really help guide people in this process and the things that are available for them to experience by themselves if we can shift out of this paradigm that we've kind of found ourselves in and open up and experience. And you're so articulate and intelligent and so likable and personable. It's like it makes it like, okay, what have you got to say? That's really cool.
We can do this.
We can do this.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a long
Yeah.
list of things you've done.
You've been busy.
Yeah, I have. I've been doing a lot of international things lately. But it's time. Things are really opening up right now. These next 2 months, November and December, for years I've told people that this November and December are, buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. Things are going to move really quickly, and it's a multidimensional experience. I know for some of the housewives might have a little trouble with this because they're just a lot of them are just dealing with keeping their kids fed and things like that, getting them off to school and stuff like that. But there is a trans-dimensional war going on, and the good news is we've won. We've cleaned up these other dimensions that have been influencing us. And once we understand how things work, when you climb the ladder of power and wealth, unfortunately, when you get into the upper levels, you get into the bankster elite, the cabal, and things like that. But when you go the next level up, there's actually some unseen negative influences and entities that are running the show. And some people call it the Archon Network or the Draconian Network or whatever. It's actually a grid of consciousness, and that's why there's so much inhumanity going on here, is because of that grid and those entities that are working off that grid. The good news is that grid has been torn down, and the fifth dimensional grid has taken its place. So what's happening is that universal law, like the source itself and all these other multidimensional beings, are coming in and to assist, with this. But universal law is within that grid. It's pressing in very hard on the planet right now, and so also the Earth itself. She has a being, a spirit. Some people call her Gaia, Sophia Gaia. Everybody has a different name for her. And actually, she is merged with the Pleiadian goddess type energy and has had an upgrade as well. So, I always like that saying, resistance is futile, because the Earth itself is ascending. She's going to the next level. The higher dimensional beings, the fifth dimensional grid, is pressing in. And so we have to rise to the occasion. We have to become frequency specific to the Earth and her evolutionary process.
Okay,
Well,
that's a lot. Yes. Okay, so that is, so when we get rid of one grid and we add, and we're bringing in the 5D grid, how, is there a time that we don't have the grid, or is it seamless? I mean, does it just sort of,
Or is it the split that we
that we
hear
keep
about,
hearing
Yeah.
about?
where
Yeah.
they both exist?
Well, there's kind of a time lapse between the new grid and the old grid. The old grid is gone, and now the physical counterparts to the old grid are floundering. So you have the puppet masters, which are non-physical beings, and they call them the Archons, and they could be like negative grays, reptilians, astral beings, kind of demonic type weird stuff. Well, all that stuff's being taken out. And so now the puppet masters have been removed, so you've got the puppets that are floundering now because they don't have the protection, they don't have that connection anymore, and they're just falling apart, and their empires are falling apart. And so we're seeing that transitionary period right now that we're in right now, where the old programs, the unbridled greed and the tyranny and the
Thank
power over
goodness.
others, all those programs are collapsing.
Well, so where did they go? Where did the puppet masters go, and how did we get rid of them? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, a lot of people they think that the universe is just like, you have like God, and then you have the angels and the clouds and the harps, and that's it, but it's much more complex than that. And so, we've been working with beings all the way up to the 13th dimension, that have been coming in, and they're all part of this process. So there are some very spiritually and technologically advanced beings coming in that are our ancient ancestors, that are off-world, that are coming in to assist in this process. And so you've got the Pleiadians, who actually they were the originators of Atlantis and Lemuria, those two colonies. are coming in, and they have more genetic stock than any other race here. So they've kind of, the scepter has been passed to them. But you've got the Orion Council of Light, and they went through the wars in Orion, you know, with the Greys and the Reptilians, and they were victorious there. They're very artistic, very advanced race, and they were hit very hard, and they weren't ready for it. But because they are very advanced, even technologically advanced, they were more advanced than the Reptilians. They just weren't geared up for it. You know, they weren't geared for war. So they had to gear up for war and take care of business. And so they're like street smart. They're very street savvy, you know, with these entities, and they're coming in as part of the planetary liberation process. And then you've got Andromedans with their mythologically known as archangels that have magnetized light bodies and light ships and things like that. And you've got Arcturians, Andromedans. I'm trying to think of who I've missed. Syrians. And now this is a little walk on the wild side. The movie Avatar, those beings do exist, and they are very protective, and they're all throughout history. Sekhmet was one of them. She's about a 14-foot tall lion being that walked right alongside the Anunnaki. And there's pictures of her, you know, and statues of her in ancient Egypt.
Sure.
Narissa in the ancient Vedic scriptures is the protector of the gods, and you see Narissa, which is this 17-foot tall lion being with Lakshmi and the other gods sitting on his lap. Well, these stories are not just stories; they're actually true events that happened in our ancient history, and they're returning with the benevolent Anunnaki. You know, Anunnaki just means those who came from heaven to earth. Well, they're returning with the benevolent Anunnaki and to kind of right a wrong, to take care of, to call the fallen Anunnaki before the councils and straighten them out. And so that's happening. And what's happening?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so you were saying that Anunnaki were actually just from heaven to earth.
Yeah, and the benevolent ones have returned to right to make good.
Yeah, to right the wrong. And, you know, I had one of these beings appear to me, and she was about 8'6", and she looked like Cameron Diaz, you know, basically. Just beautiful, green eyes, very tall, wearing a headdress because their heads are a little different than ours are. They have the more little elongated heads, you might say. Yeah, beautiful, just drop dead beautiful. And the energy that was coming off her was just, it was overwhelming. I mean, all I could say was like, "Yes, ma'am," you know, when she appeared to me, and she said, you know, she told me, she said, "You really need to look, you know, into the real history of Earth, what's really happened over time. You know, the Earth has been colonized several times, and you know, your images of your gods and things like that came from this, and some were benevolent, some weren't, and some were tyrants, and some fell." And she said that, you know, it's time for humanity to grow up and really get involved with the real history and learn where all the religions came from, the origin of the religion. And so, you know, it's very hard for people to make their own personal God connection when you think you're going to get toasted, you know,
right.
or you know, they have images of a God nobody can appease, you know, this jealous, wrathful God. And
the Old Testament, exactly.
And you have to be perfect, you know, you have to this and this and this and this, and it's all ridiculous. Those are images from the ancient history. But, you know, even Jesus, when he came, he brought a new covenant, and the new covenant was the image of an all-loving, all-forgiving God. And so how can you have a jealous, wrathful, genocidal maniac and then have an all-loving, all-forgiving God and say they're the same God, you know? So it makes no sense whatsoever. But if you read the Old Testament, that was the jealous, wrathful tyrant, and then the New Testament you have the all-loving, all-forgiving God. And you know, and read Ezekiel. There's a disc that comes out of the firmament. It has bronze feet like calves. It has fire and brimstone coming out from underneath it. When it landed, it sounded like 1,000 rushing rivers. You know, and then supposedly God steps out and you know, and starts giving orders. You know, and they had cherubim, which were wheels within wheels with flashing lights all around, coming out of the mothership, you might say. So anyway, now this was an encounter with the wrathful God, because he ordered 6 of his men with their shattering weapons to go and destroy all the men, women, and children of Israel. So So you look at this, how can 6 men destroy a whole city? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever unless you bring in, you know, advanced technology, basically, and some pretty extreme weaponry. But, you know, we have to read this without the superstition, without, you know, we have to have the Buddha mind, the fresh mind when we read this, and then we can understand what really happened in the past. So we have to dispel the old wounds and traumas in our past history, because that's what's blocking us from reuniting with the God within each and every one of us, the all-loving, all-forgiving God, and get away from these old programs.
Oh, it's that victim. I mean, that has been probably one of the biggest shifts I've had was, you know, I'm not a victim. I've created everything I have or I lack, and that is so empowering. She does EFT, and the first time she told me that I actually attracted cancer, I just wanted to throttle her. I mean, just angry. It's like, I didn't, damn, what are you talking about? But then when I realized, you know, when you figure it out and you start seeing where you drew it in, and you're not really a victim. So I completely agree with that. So,
well, you know that whole movement right now, that whole, you know, I wanted to cover that. I'm going to get real down to earth now, but this whole program, like Antifa and Black Lives Matters and Open Borders, all those guys, they have this victim program. And they're holding their arm up and screaming, victim, 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 you know, and that holds them in that role. It actually holds them in that victim role. And they're never going to evolve. They're stuck there until they let go of that and shift into forgiveness. But also to realize is that they're being played, you know, by the very people that they hate, you know, and they abhor, or they're being played because, like Antifa, you know, Soros and those guys are actually funding Antifa. And Soros is a very known and admitted Nazi, and so they're against Nazis and they're against fascism. But their leader is a Nazi, and they act like fascists, you know. So their emotional wounds are being played. They're being played, and they're actually working for the very establishment they think they're going against. And all of these organizations, we need to go to the top, see who's funding them. And really realize that we end up working for the dragon and we don't even know. I mean, we're working for the beast and not even knowing it. So people really need to do some research and look at you know what they're doing out there. You can't march for peace unless you are at peace. You know. So.
Well, and that brings up. I actually asked Ashley this. It is because I get so angry when I listen. I mean, when I watch the like CNN or Fox News or any of them, which I don't now. I mean, I'm completely unplugged. But then I used to watch, I don't know, John Oliver, who I thought he was so funny. I can't even watch that now. It's like it's such, and it's not that I'm a Trump fan. It's just I'm anti that. You know, I don't. You know, this has to be better than that. And but I come out so hysterical, and I have to find a way to be at peace with that, to rise above just the whole thing and say, wow, we're being so human. And I mean, do you have tips for that, like how to not engage that without it would be really easy to just
to put the blinders on and just consume and eat and do your work and keep your head down and not look behind the curtain, because it's huge. It's confusing.
And it's like pulling a string.
Yeah. You got to practice loving detachment. You know, it's like I can watch that thing and I don't get wrapped up in it. And if I do see myself getting emotionally pulled into it, I go, oh, wait a second, you know, and I just do clear the energy. But I tell you what I've seen lately is like Fox News, like Hannity and those guys. They actually had me on the show, which was amazing. It blew my mind, you know. But they're hitting it, you know. They're bringing in some really powerful women too, and they're just nailing it. And they're not going all the way, you know. There's a lot more information there that they can't really give and stay credible, basically, because you know, although they're going after the puppets, you know, you might want to tell people, hey, guess what? You know, there's some puppet masters that are creating all this pain and suffering and this lack and all the other stuff going on here, and we need to go clean that up. But most of humanity aren't ready for that. They aren't ready to realize that there are certain groups that actually have been feeding off of all this discord, and and so basically that's what all these groups that are creating all this dissension are about. They're actually feeding that other level, which most people aren't aware. And and what's really sad too is in the feminine side of things. I see these women up there just screaming and yelling and flipping out, and they're so wounded. They're so deeply wounded. They don't represent the divine feminine in any way whatsoever, and they're becoming models. For a lot of younger women coming up are seeing these women, and they're like they're models and things like that. And then they start pushing Sharia law, and I said, "Are you serious? You have a woman there pushing Sharia law as one of your spokesmen in this feminist movement?" And I go, "Have you done any research whatsoever? You're losing all credibility because a dog has more rights under Sharia law than a woman, and it's okay to torture, rape, beat, and do whatever you want with women." And they really need to do some research and look how women are treated, under Sharia law.
So I hate to be ignorant, but tell me about Sharia law.
Because I can't I know what it is, but I can't imagine that anybody would think that's okay. I mean, it strips you of all of your rights as a female or human.
Well, it's they haven't done the research, and they just see this woman as an oppressed woman speaking up, but she's actually a victim that's suffering from Stockholm syndrome, that's actually trying to push, the very program that actually victimized her,
Okay.
So
there's
like,
I'm sorry. So there's a story there. So what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they have these movements, and then this woman, she's famous, and she pushes Sharia law. She's a Muslim woman, and I'm not. I just watched a little bit about it, and I just didn't keep. I just said, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, this is so. It looks basically. First of all, it totally destroys the feminine movement because to have somebody like that as one of your main speakers, because you're totally discrediting yourself. And really, the feminine energy is that divine, nurturing goddess, standing to your power. But you do things through love and not. It's not trying to be act like a man and be aggressive and scream and yell. I mean, that hasn't worked. It's never worked.
No.
So why would you try that same program? It's like that old patriarchal program is what's collapsing right now. And the divine feminine is what's coming in, but the divine feminine is not screaming and yelling and freaking and I've hung out with a lot of these beings. I've actually had Mary appear, and I have photographs of her, and I've been working with her all my life. And
Mary.
Magdalene?
And Mary Magdalene, and all of them. I work with them constantly, and I mean they're here to empower women, but. What the thing is about the feminine energy is it's the feminine side. We have both male and female within it. But your feminine side is more subjective, it's more receptive, it's more connected to the source. Mm-hmm. Your emotional body is 10 times bigger than your intellect, your mental body. And it's easier for women to connect to the source. And a matriarchal society is actually better than a patriarchal society, but let's just find the balance within each of us. A balanced society is even better. But what I've seen over and over again is that when you're screaming and yelling and trying to punch somebody, and that's coming out of your right side, that's your male side,
That's your force.
That is
and
aggressive.
We really need a lot more of the feminine coming in. And you can stand in your power and you can still say what needs to be said, but get educated and make sure you're not serving the very people that have suppressed you for thousands of years. That's the main thing.
See, but James, that's the thing. To educate yourself, you have to know where to go, and hopefully, guys, he is a great resource. But there's so much out there. There's just so much noise, and I know I found Dr. Greer, I found these people, I found those people, and it's like, okay, yeah, I hear what they're saying. It doesn't really fit, and so next, and it's just a matter of, I guess, feeling that out and feeling what resonates. But it is hard to figure out who's behind all of this.
So I do.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Well, a lot, like you're talking, a lot of that stuff is very regimented. It's very, very male, ego oriented, and you have to just step away from that stuff, and find the people that really resonate in the heart. There's some people I've just been blown away with, and I'm not very, I don't want to do name dropping, but Teresa Yarnos, I've done her show, and she did a really good job. She does a great job out there. And she really comes from joy and from the heart, but she also covers, covers the important things. And you've got Candace Owens blows me away. She's I don't know if you're supposed to say African American or black, or I don't know what you're going to say, but she really represents the black people, and she's just amazing. I mean, she comes out and she's just like on it, and she's totally plugged into the higher levels when you watch her operate. But she's right in the trenches and just calling it out. And, it's sad, too, because all of these programs are dividing people. They're separating people. And we have to get away from the division game, because that's how they control people. And that's how they have to keep the social unrest going and everybody fighting with each other. And that's their gig. And we have to get away from that. But I mean, there's some people that are really. I've really seen a balance now coming in, because even in a lot of the news things, they're bringing a lot of women on and balancing this out. And I think eventually the women that are working for CNN are going to figure it out. And just go, I can't do this anymore. But it's we call it the Criminal News Network, or the CIA News Network, or whatever. There's NASA papers. In the NASA papers, it actually names CNN as their mind control aspect.
The NASA papers?
For the masses. Yeah.
How do you find that?
People should... What's that? Just type in NASA papers.
It'll pop up? Okay.
Yeah, it should pop up.
And they name CNN as that.
What's that?
I'm just saying, and they name CNN as a mind control device.
Yeah, it says it right in there that they're going to use CNN. And they do. You watch them spin everything. They don't cover the real news. They have an agenda, and they spin everything. And it's very a disempowering news network. And I just watch them work, and I can't even... When I watch them, I can see beyond what they're saying. I see their whole agenda and their program and what they're trying to create. And, they're basically New World Order spokesmen. That's their program.
Okay, so that reminds me. So when the whole England leaving the EU thing happened, I was just... A husband is a wonderful man. I mean, mine is, he's great, he's fair, he's kind, but he just kept saying, no, these are Trumpers. No, this is bad, honey, this is, we need open borders, we need all, it's like, and I couldn't say why I was so against it. So Tiffany and I were there right afterwards. Everybody we talked to, and not a whole lot, but everybody we talked to said, oh, I was for it. I wanted to leave. That's not what we heard here. Here we heard that people woke up the next day and said, what is it? What did I vote for? And that they all thought it was wrong. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, I don't know if you've ever heard of this group, the Bilderberg and blah, blah, blah. And she said, yes. And did you know that they've actually met twice this year? And they never do that. It's like, oh, really? And so people are starting to figure this out. But inherently, I knew that this isn't right. I don't know why it's not right, but it doesn't seem like a handful of people having all this control is a good thing.
Over everybody else.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's the thing, is that what I was saying before is you have the Archon grid, or the Draconian grid,
greed,
and you have
power,
these other unseen entities, and they're operating the power elite. And the good news is a lot of the power elite are actually breaking away, and they're saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to follow in my father's footsteps and things like that. And they're just saying no more. And so there's a lot of chaos in there. And those people are not frequency specific to the evolution of Earth and where she's going. So they will implode. Their health is going to fail. Their empires are going to go down. They are going to be held accountable. And that's basically what universal law is all about, because with this new energy, universal law is what's coming in with it, and they're up against forces they can't even dream of. They have no idea what's coming in right now, and there's no way they can stop it.
So I would want to talk about where we're going
Yeah,
with this
exactly.
in the next, like how we can
You were saying the next 2 months.
Well, without fear, watching all of these systems that we've kind of grown up with, watching them crumble and change and shift, and how to discern our clear path forward, and how to use this new energy and work with Gaia, work with these ascended beings, and how to do our individual part, heal ourselves, become the divine, feminine and male and healed, do our personal work, but how we can use this energy moving forward, and what you guys are doing there at the Iseari Ranch for that exact purpose.
Yeah. Basically, there's two things. It's very simple. Universal law is written into the heart of hearts of everyone. So when you drop it in the heart, you'll know it'll either feel right or it won't feel right. And the intellect will totally override that and give you all kinds of reasons why to do things that aren't, in the highest and best good of humanity and the earth. But in your heart, And universal law, in a nutshell, basically is universal peace, brother, sisterly love, individual freedom, and prosperity for everyone. That's the foundation of universal law. And then you have to ask yourself, am I creating heaven on earth? Is my conscious and energy directed towards creating heaven on earth? What am I doing with my life and my energy? Where am I directing this? And that's, those two things. If people just write that on their mirror, I say write it on your mirror, put it on your refrigerator. Am I creating heaven on earth? Am I operating under universal law? And just realize universal law, again, is basically universal peace, brother, sisterly love, and individual freedom and prosperity for everybody. That's what's coming in. And everything begins in consciousness, and it drops down into light and then the energy into mass. Well, the consciousness is changing here. The grid is changing, and so everything else below it has to follow suit. It has to change. It's not optional anymore. So we don't have the luxury of continuing to do things that are harmful to each other and to humanity and the earth, and also to operate from tyranny and from power over others. We have our power chakra sits right in our solar plexus, and that is designed to empower others and to empower us to do our own unique purpose to fulfill that. And that's all it's for. It's never used to overpower others. But the first three chakras are all screwed up right now, because you've got survival in your root chakra. So you have survival, sex, and power, or survival, creation, energies, power. Those three chakras have been totally abused and used and manipulated. Look at Hollywood, what's going on there.
Right.
All the pedophile stuff and everything else. You really look about it, they're using sex to manipulate, to control, to dominate. They're using power over others to fulfill their sexual desires, all that predatory stuff. I'm not going to survive if I don't do this, it's survival. Those are all messed up right now, and they're being cleaned up. They're being brought back into alignment. And it doesn't mean they're bad, it just means they need to be aligned with the heart. And so when you're aligned with the heart, love expressed. Love needs to be expressed. And when you align with the higher dimensions above that, the source takes care of you. You're not in survival anymore. You're working from a whole different, you're working from creationary mind versus reactionary mind. So the powers that are crumbling right now, they've been trying to keep everybody in reactionary mind and create all these false flags and traumas and things like that. And then they're the solution. Then they come like, oh, we're the solution.
Buy this pill.
Dependent on us.
Vote for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we make more money.
And it keeps people locked in, and the TV and all the other stuff, and even the music industry. They keep people locked into survival, sex, and power. And where's the heart movies? Where's the movies about higher consciousness and energy? Where's Hollywood has a program. They have to have boy meets girl, boy saves girl, and now they're going boy meets girl, girl saves boy. But it's the same format, and then boy, girl saves the planet, or basically, or saves the city or something. they don't even deviate from that. And if you talk to most producers, they said if we don't use this formula, we're going to be a flop, because people are so programmed they don't even have to ring the bell anymore. You know, people just automatically have been programmed by television and movies and things like that. And so, and that's what's breaking down right now. Their whole matrix is just falling apart.
Well, okay, so why is it that, I'm shifting gears, but the folks not from here, why are they so interested in our little tiny corner of the world?
Well, what
universe?
happened is Earth is like this incredible biological zoo, you might say. And it's more than that. It's actually,
like a library.
And there's 12 major star nations involved in the colonization of Earth, which wasn't just one shot. It happened several times. And then everybody had to start over because of pole shifts or major volcanic eruptions and meteor impacts and things like that. So it's a series of colonization projects, and we're the culmination of that. And so we're the culmination of 12 major star nations. Both their plant and animal biology came here, those genetics, as well as the human genetics. And nowhere else has this diversity of genetics.
Like
no
a
other
living
planet.
library, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like a living library. And it is very important. And what happened is this project, the terraforming, it was actually created to be an Eden where everything could evolve to its highest potential. And, you know, and so that was the original program, and it got hijacked by these lesser beings that came in, you know, the Draconians, the Archon Grid, all that stuff. And it got hijacked. And we're way out in the boondocks. We're out in the outer arm of the Milky Way. And they've cleaned up all the interior now. They've straightened that out, and now they're moving out, and they're coming to liberate the Earth from this nonsense. And that's basically what's going on right now. There's a huge planetary liberation going on, and the tyrants are basically imploding, and that total unbridled greed and lust for power is coming to an end, because, you know, everything they seek is they're not going to get. You know, you really think about it, why do you amass all that money? You know, because you want power, and you want control, and you want people to love you, and you want the fame, and you want to be accepted and loved and everything else. Well, you know, because of their deeds, first of all, nobody's going to love them and accept them. They're just going to hang out with them for what they can get. So get out of them, basically. So where's the love there? Where's the joy there? Are they free? No, they're totally enslaved by their own mechanism. You know, whatever the people do, they have to react to try to keep control and things like that. They're not free. They have no freedom whatsoever. And, you know, the money is not going to make them happy, the wealth. And they can have all the toys they want, and eventually they're going to realize how empty this whole thing is, you know, because there's no love there. You know, toys don't possess emotions, and there's no emotions there. So really what they're after is that love and joy and bliss. That's the ultimate goal. They're going about it in all the wrong ways, and they'll never get it. And as a matter of fact, they've trapped themselves into going in the opposite direction. So they're not going to, you know, that they're going to realize that they're on a downward spiral, which is going to collapse. And with this new energy, it's amplifying everything, and it's amplifying their downward spiral, and it's amplifying their karma and the action-reaction. The time between action-reaction is shortening. And so they're creating their own demise, you know, and all they got to do is just shift gears, wake up, do a heartfelt soul forgiveness thing, and let go of it, and shift their energies towards the awakening and healing process and the restoration of humanity, Earth, and they can pull out of it. But, you know, very few are going to do this, you know, but because they're stuck, you know, they have a compulsive behavior program, you know, which is programmed to just, you know, control and dominate and consume, you know, as much as they can.
Well, how long is that process? I mean, how long? And we've done some shows on ascension and all of this info that has been coming through, and people they think that one day we'll just kind of wake up and we'll be in a place where we don't have to have cash and everything will be equal and everybody will be healed. And to me that seems more like wishful thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
How does the new Earth,
Well,
right? The new Earth, and we were talking about that parallel universes and them existing simultaneously. So maybe some people are still on the old Earth, feeling all this greed with all of this power trip.
Yeah.
But other people find themselves in a much more pleasant, light, loving environment.
Yeah, a lot of people, somebody asked me, they said, well, what do you see in the future? And I said, well, there's about, 8 billion futures being created right now.
Right.
And by 8 billion beings. And so that's a better way of looking at it. But as a collective, we are moving into a brighter future. And there are things happening right now, and I'm privy to that. And I can't talk too much about it. I can talk about generalities, but there is a whole new monetary system coming in, and it will level the playing field. And I'm talking to the top people involved in this, and they're very, very close to initiating this and getting rid of the old program that is meant to keep us in abject poverty and keep our nose to the grindstone. So the more they can do that, the more we don't have that time to be creative and tap into our own God selves or goddess selves, whatever you want to call it. But what I see is that it's happening right now. We are right smack in the middle of it, the fall of the tyrants. They're going down, and they're going down very rapidly, and they're being exposed, and it's going to happen very quickly. We're right in the middle of this, and there's some things about Trump, and I'm not a Trump fan. I believe that the right wing and the left wing is always the same bird, and you have to figure out who's the head, what's the head of the bird. And, but he's doing exactly what he came here to do. He came here to shake it up, to shake everything up, to expose it, let people see what it is. And his main job is to restore the republic and bring back, and get rid of the feds. Basically that's his thing, and bring back a fair system, a fair system. And so it's a series of steps. We're not ready for a Gandhi right now. People... Yeah. A Gandhi, they would just kill. He would be gone in no time. We need a warrior. We need somebody that's going to go there and shake things up. And regardless of I'm not saying he's perfect or anything else, but he's doing exactly what he came here to do. And he does need to shake things up. And as far as the open borders thing, you can't bring two cultures together that are diametrically opposed and think you're going to have a good outcome. We've seen that, over in Europe where they've just totally destroyed cultures over there and countries and things like that. And that is their intention. Their intention is not to bring everybody together in peace and harmony. They're there to just totally create as much chaos and destruction as possible so they can come in and pick up the pieces, and establish their totalitarian state, with them in charge. That's the end goal of that. And again, people need to realize that. First of all, a lot of the Muslims that they've been duped into believing that, they're going to, those old programs. There's so many of them. You're going to get 72 virgins, and all these things if you do a jihad and die, and stuff like that. It's just, that's not God. I hate to tell you that if they really had an experience with the source itself, they would experience it as the most loving, unconditionally loving, joyous, blissful energy you can imagine. It's beyond imagination. There's no jihad there. I'm sorry. It's like that's a program that came from the fallen Anunnaki. It came from Marduk. Marduk is actually on the dinar. And Marduk is the one that actually made a pact with the reptilians and the lower beings for total supremacy over the earth, and he went against his own people. And that's historically written, So basically, it's written in stone. You see these guys standing right next to these reptilian beings and these other beings, and it's all carved in stone right there. That's not myth. That's exactly what happened. And so we're still cleaning that up. we're cleaning that mess
Thousands of
up
years later.
that's been going on for quite some time. So, you know, there are non-human beings that have no love for humanity, no respect for life at all. As a matter of fact, some of them, you know, and this is a walk on the wild side. Some of them just see us as food, basically. They have no respect whatsoever for the Creator and all creation. They're actually warring against creation, and that's what you're seeing with, you know, all the chemtrails and all the other things going on. You know, it's, you know, the inoculations, the chemtrails, everything. They would like to see most of it's gone. And this is a hard pill to swallow, but, you know, it is the red pill. The good news is that the higher dimensional beings coming in are putting it into that program. And so a lot of people are sitting in their house and they don't even realize all these things are going on.
It's like
I know.
Star Wars is
Yeah.
real. You think that bar that you go into and there are all these different
hologram.
entities, and, you know,
Yeah.
that's real, that's happening.
Or the
It's-
Matrix is real.
So I'd like to switch gears too,
Yeah.
unless you have a thought.
Yeah,
I wanted to
I-
go to the ranch.
Yeah, but I do. Oh God, where did it go? Right out of my head. It is. So we had there was a law that said people could not get involved because why are
We were like quarantined, right, for a long time.
Yeah.
but the negative could, but then the positive, the benevolence couldn't get involved. So now they've kind of said, okay, that's enough. Now it's time.
Yeah,
We're stepping in.
quarantine's over, hands off. You know, they put their gloves on and they're getting busy right now, and so they realized the quarantine program didn't work. They're hoping that we would evolve and learn to lead ourselves and things like that. The problem is there's so much negative influence, as I was saying before, so much oppression that they have to come in and lift that to give us a shot, you know, give us equal footing, you know, so we can evolve and go
Or
to
even
the
know
next
to
level
look.
and actually make a choice.
Yeah, even
You
though
know-
we have a choice.
So I've been there. Long story, but basically I went to this place and what she showed me was the earth and then just this black ooze that went across it. And she said, we've decided to take people off. So was that one option? And we've decided not to do that, not to just remove people, but to just go ahead and come in and clean the ooze off, for lack of better
Yeah,
way of saying it.
what I think the plan basically is it's all being done in frequency, with frequencies and energies. The higher consciousness, again, is that pure, unconditional love and joy and bliss. That energy's coming in, and it carries with it universal law. The lower frequency stuff it's called sympathetic resonance. It has to evolve. It has to rise up, or it's done. You know, it can't stay here anymore. And so that's basically how they're working mainly, but they are doing hands-on things. They've cleaned out a lot of bases here of the negative ETs. They've done a lot of hands-on work here, and cut the cords between the puppet masters and the puppets. And so now it's up to us to rise up and reclaim our divinity, and act according to universal law and hold our leadership. Both business, political, and business institutions to universal law, and just say, common law is very close to universal law. The Bill of Rights and the Constitution and things like that are very close to universal law. The problem is that all got usurped, and a whole other system was put in its place, and that's collapsing too. And that's what the Republic's about. Restoring the Republic is part of that. It's going back to common law and universal law, and these old tyrannical programs, which are predatory, are gonna come to an end. Like the Just Us system is no longer going to be a true justice system, and not the Just Us system anymore.
I just have one more thing to ask, and then because I've never heard anyone talk about this. So when we die and we cross, how does where we go factor into all of this? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, basically, what happens is, we are a collection of consciousness and energy, you might say, that has a frequency to it. And we're going to gravitate to something, to that plane of existence that matches our frequency. So if you're full of love and joy and bliss and service, you're going to go to the highest levels, no problem. And if you're full of anger and jealousy and rage and you want to control and dominate or whatever, you're not going to go very far. The good news is that when you do cross over, there's like a gift. I would call it like a burn, where a lot of that stuff is burned off. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect to get into the higher dimensions, but your intention, I always tell people all it takes is an open mind, a loving heart, and pure intent, and you're going to get there. It doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. That's how we gain the wisdom, through experience. And you know, sin is an archery term. It just means you missed. That's all it means.
So,
you know, hell is...
Missed the mark.
Yeah, if you didn't have enough money, if you didn't have enough shekels to have a proper burial, they would throw you on the garbage pit and burn you along with the other garbage, and that's what hell is.
that's where hell comes from?
Yeah, that's where the word hell comes from.
Funeral
You're going to burn in hell, you know, because
Or
you
on
didn't
hell.
make
On
something
the
of
hill.
yourself, you know.
It's like a
so-
Texan. They don't say hill, they say hell.
Yeah,
burn you on the hill.
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's what I'm saying. All of these misunderstandings from the past that have been recorded by men that did the best they could, and they took out most of the women's stuff. You know, even in the Bible, the Apocrypha had all the women's teachings in there, and Michael's teachings about reincarnation. Everything is in there. You know, they took all that out. You know, so we need to bring that back in and get a more balanced view, and actually do some major research on the real history of Earth, and then we'll see that, you know, it's like we've had a lot of experiences. There's been a lot of little g gods, you know, not gods, but little g gods down here running around. They're very technologically advanced beings that we would you know, revere them as gods just because of some of their stature. They're very tall and they have some extremely advanced technology, but they weren't, you know, the Anunnaki, you know, all those legends about the Greek gods and the demigods and everything, all that came from the Anunnaki, which those who came from heaven to earth. You know, and in the ancient days, it was great. You know, you drop in on the earth, you know, the Earth B&B, you know, and you get their fatted calf and their virgins, and all you got to do is a few tricks, you know, and you're in, you know, and that went on a lot in the past. And some of those guys were very benevolent, and some weren't. Some were very manipulative and control freaks, and that's our ancient history, and we need to realize that we need to, you know, read that with fresh eyes, with new eyes, and look at what really happening. It's time for this civilization to grow up and embrace its ancient roots and realize, you know, where our belief systems come from.
Well, they have.
Because, you know, in the word believe, there's a lie in the middle. The B-E-L-I-E-V-E.
It's your, yeah.
So always remember, you know, your beliefs, you know, where did your beliefs come from? You know, how did you establish your beliefs? What were your sources? How were you raised, you know, and things like that. And so, you know, my thing is, you know, to get out in nature is the best thing you can do, and meditate, you know, get out in nature and meditate and just make your own personal connection and let all that other stuff just kind of wash away.
Well, that's a great way for me to ask you about your ranch, because you have the ECETI Ranch up there in Washington State, and we have about 5 minutes, so we could talk to you for hours. But people can come. I know you're about to winterize the camp for the year, but people can come up there. So maybe you can just give people just a quick synopsis of the ranch and the phenomenon that people experience on a regular basis, that you guys have contact with these beings, and people can come and have their own personal encounter.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about. Some people say we're a cult, you know, and I said, but, you know, there's nothing to join. I said,
No money,
we're just
no
a
membership.
we're a lot of free-thinking people that come here. We have a free newsletter. You can join that, you know. But we don't have any, and there's no guru here. I don't call myself a guru. I'm here to remind people of what's within them. And so there is no hierarchy or guru status here. So it's important to realize that. And we really inspire people to, you know, think critically, to develop their own discernment, and to lead themselves, you know, not to have, you know, constantly let other people lead them. But that's our main function here. And people can just go to the website, just go to the ECETI.org website, or they can go to the YouTube channel, you know, the ECETI Stargate, if they want to see what's going on here. But basically, it's a vortex. It's like a power spot. Everybody, a sacred place. Everybody has different names for these places. And the veils between worlds are very thin here. So whatever you're into, you're going to experience. And so if you're really into the nature kingdom, you'll see a lot of the nature spirits and actually photograph them and things like that here. You know, if you're into the angelic kingdom or the ascended masters, we have a lot of them actually physically appearing here. And we have photographs of them, you know, appearing. They'll drop down into, it's not really a physical body, it's a magnetized light body, but we photograph them quite a bit. And then, you know, we have the spiritually and technologically advanced off-worlders coming here on a regular basis. And we're right at the base of Mount Adams, which has a doorway into the inner earth, which is a whole nother
Is that the
show, probably.
The garage door? I saw that. That was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Well,
There's actually 3 doors. There's 3 doors up there that are very active. Two are very active. The garage door, something happened up there. Something else came in and kind of leveled the top of that mountain, and that's been sealed off again, it looks like. So I think it got so much press that some of the other, I don't know if it's our own secret space fleet or something, somebody came in there with a blinking light on it. Most of the ETs don't have strobes on them, but something came there with a strobe on it. Next morning there was all this rubble over that entrance. So I think that there's elements that don't want this information out.
We're going to have to do our own joyride.
yeah, we're
Road
totally
trip
coming
up
out.
there.
I mean, it is. I really wanted to try to make it up there
And
this
it just
year.
reminds me, I had a dream last night where I watched this cloud, and it was cloaking an ET vessel. And when the cloud dissipated, there was a ship. So
You were getting ready
I'm
for
getting
today.
ready to have my own experience, I guess. I've had
Yeah.
plenty of experience with human spirit and people that I've known and loved, but I have not had my own personal experience with off-world beings.
Well, we've
yet.
seen
But
we've seen
yeah.
spacecraft. I've seen 3 since June or
Yeah.
July, but
I'm
we've
very
seen-
open to just come and have this personal experience, because once you have your own, it's undeniable, and then you really can start investigating
Yeah.
and seeing everything with fresh eyes and saying there's a whole lot more going on than what we've all been led to believe. And we're being called to that with this new energy. And we just have a couple minutes left. So I wanted to let everybody know you've also written a couple of books: Reunion with Source, Becoming Gods, The Ultimate Soul Journey, and you've got a documentary, Contact Has Begun. Your latest book, Anunnaki Return, Star Nations, and the Days to
book.
Come. So there's so many ways to get this information: your website, your YouTube video, your books, interviews that you've done, because we've just scratched the surface here.
really, seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How do you stay safe? How are you even still here?
Yeah. You know, there's been quite a few attempts. But,
Have there?
luckily, I have other beings watching over me. And, you know, and some of the stuff I have to go through like everybody else, you know, some of the stuff they're doing. But I always figure out a way to transcend it, and I always know who to call for help, you know, to clear this out. And help's available, but we have to initiate it, you know, learn to initiate it. But, you know, they've played a lot of games, and they've lost a lot of hardware, you know, in the process. And but that's coming to a close, basically. That group is running out of everything, you know, so they won't be able to pull this off much longer.
Yay!
Well, thank you for making sense of all of this and putting it in a way that we can just start to grasp. And if it resonates with our friends that are joining us, you know, there's really so much that we can have a conversation about and talk about and see a new truth in things that we hadn't seen before, and how to let go of this old tyrannical ruling and kind of mind numbing, and really critically think for yourself. So
Well, I think you have to unplug too. That really helps
yeah.
to not be.
Yeah, I think
fed
too,
it.
it's really important to realize that, you know, the ETs you've been waiting for are you know, so
Yes,
so it's
you
like
are your
these
own-
are our ancestors that are coming back, and the invasion that everybody's worried about, you know, has already happened.
It's
the
us.
souls entering the body. You know, that was the invasion, and it's already happened. And a lot of people have incarnated from these advanced civilizations now for this time.
Yeah.
And they're being initiated and awakened, and they're in very high levels.
James,
You know, within all institutions. So
can we
it's
invite
on
you
right
back? We hate to interrupt. Can we invite you back to
Yeah.
continue this? Because you've been a
Sure.
blessing. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody,
for everything.
who have joined us on this
you for coming
joyride
on.
into the beyond and back. Thank you.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye, James.